Hi everyone, Tashidele. It's such a blessed day today. In the morning in India, here we had His Holiness's teachings, and we are going to end the day with Geshe Lhakdor's teachings. I mean, I cannot think of more blessings as such. So, warm welcome to Geshe and everyone here, and thank you to all of you who've been joining us since the last 6 sessions, and today is our seventh. And also, thank you so much to those who are joining us afresh. And we hope you'll be here throughout our next sessions. And with that, Gishela, over to you. Thank you.
So, Tashi Dilek again, as His Holiness mentioned during the teaching, that the purpose of all these teachings by the Buddha is to tame the wild, unruly, negative emotions. If one is not able to target these negative emotions and try to weaken them and reduce them and finally uproot them, then I don't think our practice can be called a Dharma practice in the true sense of the term. Because the very word Dharma actually means to catch hold of you from falling into a negative state. Sanskrit word, Dara, which means to catch hold. So catch hold here means to catch hold of you from falling into a negative state. And it is by cultivating and practicing the negative emotions or afflictive emotions that you fall into a negative state, a miserable life. And contrarily, if you undertake the positive practices, then it will uphold you, it will catch you from falling into those negative states. So therefore, if we don't make our spiritual practice very complicated, then I think sometimes human beings, our mind is so intricate and we are fond of making, and in many cases, fond of making even simple things into a complex thing. As one of the Tibetan teachers says, if you make a very simple thing as very complicated, then they will highly regard you as a great scholar. But if you make a very complicated teaching, a simple one, explain it in a very simple, understandable language, then people might say, oh, this is so easy, even I understand that. So the question is not so much about whether you are understanding it or not, but the question is whether you're able to practice what you've understood. That is the problem with me, and I think it's a problem with all of us. And I have always been saying, and I think I said it during this teaching also, all of us actually know quite a lot, maybe through study of Dharma or through life's experience, life's ups and downs. We know that I should not be doing this. We know I should be doing this. But even while saying I should not be doing this, we are so much addicted to it. We keep on doing it one more time, one more time. Okay, I'll stop. This is the last. And the next time again you do it. Okay, now this is the last. But you continue to do the same die-hard negative habit continuously. So that's why we continue to get suffer, we continue to get problem, and we are unable to improve. And similarly, in the case of doing positive things, it is not that we don't have a wish to do, we have a wish to do, but the only problem is we always think, okay, this I will do it tomorrow or next week or after I finish my college or after I, retired from my household responsibilities and things like that. So what is important, what is really important, we keep on postponing. That is another kind of laziness. So that is the problem. That's why during one of the previous sessions also, I told you that we should make it a point to at least start, targeting one negative emotion and, try to reduce it, lessen it, and try to identify at least one positive practice like compassion and try to concentrate and try to improve your compassion. And if you're able to achieve success in doing one positive practice properly, it will open the door for many other, positive practices. So the problem is we are not even good in one thing. That is the problem. And especially I see this problem with myself. That is why I'm sharing. Your state may be different, but most probably not much different. So that's important. The other day also I mentioned that it's no fun going to a restaurant and just read the menu and come back without eating anything, or just going to a doctor and get the prescription and don't eat the medicine. That's what we normally do, even in the case of taking medicine. Unless you are seriously sick, you just go to the doctor, do the consultation, and then don't eat the medicine by saying this is sour or bitter or things like that. So especially similarly in the spiritual practice, also when you do the spiritual practice, especially sincerely, honestly, your life becomes a little bit different from ordinary people. And that's why you feel uncomfortable. You sometimes even might feel strange that I'm doing this as if I'm old man, as if Dharma practice is to be done by an old people. So that's our tendency. So we are very fond of joining the flock, in whichever direction they are going, just join it. Just join it and go blindly wherever they're going. So therefore, in terms of spiritual practice, it's not so much the question about the majority. The majority are going in a different direction. It's only very few people who are able to excel in such practices. And not only in spiritual practice, even in science and many other important, studies or training, it's only those people who, relentlessly struggle and make continuous effort, then they excel in that field. Otherwise, we'll become kind of lukewarm, neither hot nor cold. So we always remain in that state of mediocrity. So therefore, it is really important to try to implement even on a small scale as much as possible. The reason is because it's not easy to obtain this human life again and again. Number one. Number two, even if we have obtained this precious human life, how long you are going to live, it's really completely unsure. During the last few days especially on the internet, I've seen a number of people who I know dying. One was Rinpoche, who was just 40 something years old, and he passed away. And then there were, tales of elderly people, 80 years old, 90 years old. And then with the coronavirus, influence, whether it's just the coronavirus or other diseases, whatever, but every day we are counting, so many people, dying. So today, during the last 24 hours, it says over 600 people died and things like this. Is just related to the so-called coronavirus, but countless people are dying. So that's our fate. So we need to understand this. There is nothing to get scared or anything like that, because just by living long is not indication that you will have a happier life and things like that. But what is important is having obtained this very precious human life and having this opportunity to completely transform your emotions and get a better rebirth even while you're alive, to be able to lead a more happier life, and then in the future lives also to get a happier rebirth. All this is dependent upon how you live, how you practice on a daily basis, not just 1 week or something like that, but we need to do this practice on a daily basis, a regular basis. And it is through this kind of regular practice that we'll be able to get transformed, we'll be able to change ourselves, and then there will be more long-lasting happiness for us, and also we'll be in a position to help others. So therefore, this spiritual practice here, what we call as a Buddhist practice, is, I think, is a necessity. It's not a luxury. It's not something that you can do without, but it's, I think, especially for the Buddhists, it's almost like a necessity. Okay, so that's very important to understand how important it is, because at the end of the day, the happiness and peace that we long for has to come from within and not from without or from outside. So that's very clear. So therefore, in the next chapter, chapter number 7, which is titled as entering into the virtuous practice after having abandoned the objects that must be abandoned. The root verse reads, destroy anger and pride and equip with the mind of humility, give up wrong livelihood and nourish by the livelihood of Dharma. I mean, there's such a wonderful teaching, in just short one verse, you can like do a lot of practice, destroy anger and pride. Now here I've used the word anger, but I'm not so sure because in the Tibetan word we have tova and kongtro. Kongtro and tova are two different. Kongtro is really the anger. Tova is almost like, I don't know which English word I should use, kind of annoyance or irritation or spite or something like that. So they have a quite similar nature. So whether you use spite or anger here, but what he is saying is that spite or anger could arise because either to other people or because of the situation surrounding around you. In the case of anger, normally the anger is said to arise in relation to other sentient beings, especially in the case of a human being, anger arises in relation to other human beings. And in the text, it says you might develop anger by thinking about somebody who has harmed you in the past, who is still harming you, and who you think will harm you in the future. And similarly, you develop anger by thinking that this person has harmed my relatives before, he's harming even today, and he will harm them in the future. And then with your enemy, you again develop anger by saying this person has helped my enemy in the past, he's still helping, and he might help this enemy in the future. So these are said to be the 9 objects, 9 references towards which you develop anger. And if you just translate it something like spite, then because of the not
I'll
that,
ask Rohit to just put, I have an MOU that's come. I'll ask him to put it in my top drawer. Don't worry.
Karidi. Hello, can you hear? Hello.
Yeah,
Oh,
this
sorry,
is
Geshe,
just a
yes,
request everybody to please put your microphones on mute because we're getting some private conversations intruding about MOUs. So please mute your microphones.
Oh,
And
did you hear what I said so far?
yes, we can hear you,
yes.
Geshe.
Because
Somebody else with,
I saw my audio was muted, so I was.
No, you were fine, Geshe.
Okay, so you people must be controlling it. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So therefore, in the case of spite or irritation, it could arise because of the surrounding, the environment, which is not so congenial or suitable to you. Your mobile phone is not working, or your computer crash, or or there is a huge rainfall or flood, or in Delhi because of a lot of pollution, you develop this kind of spite or irritations. So whatever be the case, destroy anger. That means unhappiness of mind. As I said the other day, you might remember that the food for anger or spite is unhappiness of mind. When you encounter these situations, you know, unwelcoming situations from people or from surroundings, then because of this, if you mentally become unhappy, then you develop spite, then you develop irritation, then you develop anger. So therefore, it's really, really important in all situations, try as much as possible to maintain that happiness, maintain that calmness, maintain that tranquility of the mind. It's very, very important. And it is because of this, occasionally when I give such teachings, I, in a way jokingly, but I'm also serious also, I tell them that although this is not a tantric commitment, but I'm going to give you a tantric kind of commitment. And that commitment is, whatever may come in my life, I will make sure that I will never become unhappy. This is not easy commitment, okay? Maybe more difficult than the tantric commitment. So this is really, really important, really important. When your mind is happy, you are able to tolerate everything. When your mind is irritated and unhappy, then even a small, minor incident could spark off your anger, your spite and things like that. So therefore, anger, as I said repeatedly, that there is nobody who right in the morning makes a motivation to get angry, saying that today I will get angry. So you already have some kind of idea anger is not good. So you don't make a motivation to get angry. But when you go out and meet strange people or strange co-workers, or things don't work as you desired, then you get angry. As Shantideva said, there, even though people don't think that I'll get angry, but they randomly get angry because of the provoking situations and surroundings. So therefore, it is really, really important to make sure that whatever be the situation, I will make sure that I will not get irritated. I will not get irritation is, of course, this is a little bit minor problem, but anger, make sure that you don't get angry. Okay, because when you, so this is basically when you say, I will not make sure that I'll not get angry, you are basically saying, I will make sure I will not get crazy or I will not get mad. When you get mad, you become, when you get angry, when you develop anger, you become mad. So we can ask this question to ourselves now. Should I become mad, insane? We do become insane and mad when we get angry. So insanity and madness means when your mind is not functioning properly, and when your mind is not able to judge what is right, what is wrong, what is suitable, what is not suitable. And when your mind is not functioning, then you do everything. Just like somebody who is completely drunk, when somebody is completely drunk, then that drunken person is unable to differentiate between his mother and his wife. So similarly, when we get angry, also we are unable to, differentiate what we are saying, how we are behaving. So you become very, very nasty. You become really mad. Okay, so the most important part of human brain, that is intelligence, the capacity to judge what is right and what is wrong, that is destroyed through anger. So it's very, very destructive. And nature of anger and hatred is such that when you get angry and hatred, you always push other people away. Get lost. Don't come with me. You see? And the core message of Buddha's teaching is to bring sentient beings closer to you, to develop love, to develop compassion, to practice patience. So anger destroys all those positive practices. So it's really like, therefore anger has always been compared to a fire. You see, the job of a fire, rather a conflagration of fire, is to destroy, to consume everything that comes within its fold. So similarly, the purpose of anger is to destroy, to burn, to kill, as we see during the war and the conflict. So therefore, I don't need to elaborate much. It's important not just read the text, but you should read newspapers, the things that happen because of anger. Okay, and then your personal experience of anger. When you got angry, what did you do? What kind of sin you have created and things like that. So through that way, develop the conviction, yes, anger is destructive, anger is negative. So therefore, I will distance myself from anger. So what I'm saying is, let us make these teachings realistic, not just somebody called Atisha said long time in the back, so it may be useful, so it's very holy. Not like that. Just relate these teachings to your own personal experience. When he says anger is bad, how it is bad? In the society, how it is bad. In the world, how bad it is. We can see all this. There's so many clear examples. So with that understanding, he's saying destroy anger. Actually, he's saying destroy anger. He's not saying just lessen it. But for us, in terms of practice, we may not be able to destroy it at one go. Therefore, we need to, lessen it and then gradually destroy it. Destroy anger and pride. Destroy anger and pride. Now, with the pride, pride, or we can translate it also as kind of arrogance. Arrogance arises by focusing upon yourself, by focusing upon this transitory, this momentary or impermanent psychophysical aggregate. Observing your psychophysical aggregate, you might get puffed up. By observing your psychophysical aggregate, you might start thinking, I'm so handsome, I'm so beautiful, I'm so intelligent, I'm so knowledgeable. So when your mind gets puffed up, inflated, then disrespect arises. Disrespect arises. And because of this arrogance and disrespect, it provides that support for experiencing more sufferings. And that arrogance may be because you have a lot of wealth, or maybe you have some higher qualities. So also by focusing on that knowledge that you have, that expertise that you have, that possession that you have, because of this you get puffed up. Okay, so therefore again I don't need to talk much about this. Even if you read some of the English sayings, there are so many sayings which talks about the destructiveness of arrogance. For example, we have this English saying which says, "Pride goeth before a fall." See, so until and unless you fall, you get puffed up. So before you fall, it is important to see the destructiveness of arrogance or pride and reduce it. You can use the word arrogance, pride, or conceit, or whichever is relevant. Pick up a more relevant term, and one of the worst outcome of such arrogance is, as I said, you stop respecting others. You stop observing humility. And because of having no sense of humility and respect for others, you don't think that I can get this knowledge from others. Instead, you might think, oh, I'm much better than him. My English is much better than him. My Dharma knowledge is much better than him. My teacher is much better than him. My training is much better than him. Even though you personally may not have any of these higher qualities, but you might, because when you get puffed up, you're unable to see the reality, right? So therefore, as we say in Tibetan, ordinary Tibetan, society, we say mensa kunge desai. That means the low place or place of humility is really the place from where you can reach the higher place. The more you observe a lowly state, the more you observe humility, the more it will be happier for you, right? All of you have that, I think, understanding and practice. In my own case also, I have been trying to practice this as much as possible. So occasionally there arises certain high posts and people, ask me to take that high post and things like that. Then I normally, as much as possible, try to avoid that high post if there is a sense of, if there is a risk and danger of getting puffed up and arrogant. So it's very, very important to get, not to get obsessed with those things which will further kind of strengthen your arrogance. We all have that arrogance. Even people who are very low and who are very poor, they also have their amount of arrogance. All of us have that arrogance, right? So therefore, if arrogance is arising, then you should think about the antidote. Why should I get so arrogant? I'm going to die one day. I don't even know how long I'm going to live. I don't even know how I came into this world from the past world, how I came into this world. And I don't know after death where I'm going to go. I have no knowledge, nothing. And right now also, I don't really know how long I'm going to live. So why should I get so arrogant? So there are many ways to reduce that arrogance. And once you reduce that arrogance, then you become humble. And with that sense of humility, you become receptive and sensitive to other people's needs and receptive to higher, advices and teachings. So it's really, really important to possess that sense of humility. So therefore, the next word says, destroy anger and pride. And after that, he says, and equip with the mind of humility. So I have already explained this, the meaning of the importance of maintaining humility. As one of the great Kadamba masters, he says that you should yourself see whether the beautiful green grasses and flowers grow down in the valley or on the exposed top of a mountain. He gives this example. And of course, the beautiful green grasses and flowers, they grow at least more on the more down in the valley than on the exposed top of a mountain. So he's saying that if you act like an exposed top of a mountain, then there is not much room for you to grow higher qualities, right? But you act like that place down in the valley, then there is room for you to grow the flowers of compassion, loving kindness, and so forth, and equip with the mind of humility. Give up wrong livelihood. Now, this is again for ordinary people like us. This is very, very important. And so long as we live, we need to depend on livelihood. So we need to examine very carefully from where your livelihoods are coming. Again, here also, it's very, very easy to make that mistake. You know, we might, for example, if it's a government property, say, even a pen or something which belongs to the government and which should be used in the office where you work for that institution. But if you take that pen to your room and use it as if it is bought by you or something like that, even that is a kind of stealing. It's a kind of stealing because it doesn't belong to you. Stealing basically means taking those things which you don't own, which you take from others. So stealing is not necessarily doing burglary or going to some place stealthily and taking something away. So the stealing means taking forcibly by through burglary or through robbery, through robbing, or through wrong livelihood, by using your force or without asking, taking something from others. These are all included in stealing. So it's very, very easy to engage in that wrong livelihood. It may not be that serious, but it is possible. It is very, very possible. And so the wrong livelihood means if you try to get a post or have your salary raised, and for that, if you flatter the boss, and through that way, if your salary is raised, that is also a wrong livelihood. Flattery, through flattery, and then through hinting, you may not say directly, but if you hint, and through that way, if you get that wrong something, then that is also wrong livelihood. And then misusing your power and getting something from the lower officials, which is very rampant in our today's world. You know that you can easily take advantage of the officials working under you. So there is also wrong livelihood. And then hypocrisy, which is very likely to happen with teachers who teach Dharma, because when they get some group of students, they might again get inflated. So you can see how all these things practices are related to each other. You might get puffed up and arrogant, and then you get mad. Then you start thinking that I'm now very special. And that's how many people now they post and say that I'm Buddha. You see, there are many who say Buddha, and or if sometimes they don't say, but they hint that they're not the ordinary human being. You see, right? And especially, many people are very innocent and not well informed. So when you have much more knowledge than them, then they start respecting you so much. They might start thinking that he's something special, and has clairvoyance, or maybe able to fly, or maybe omniscient, and things like that. And then when you have this opportunity, then you might tend, yes, I'm somebody special. You're right, I'm omniscient. You're right, I have clairvoyance. They might start doing these things. I also got some opportunities like that. Once I was visiting a center in Brazil. So the few Dharma centers, they are invited me to give some talks and teachings. So when I entered into one of the Dharma center, the throne they put for me, probably not for me, maybe for many other visiting teachers. So the same throne, whatever, but the throne was so high, it's really like the throne of His Holiness Dalai Lama, even higher. And then near the throne, they have this very magnificent, high table on which you have all this silver studded, cups and cup lids and filled with all the delicacies. When they asked me to sit on that set, I was frightened because I'm such a ignorant, stupid fellow. How can I dare to sit on that throne? I could not. You see, I could not. So what I'm saying is, I'm not talking about how great I am, but what I'm saying is, you can easily get tempted when you are offered such a position. You might get and go and sit on the throne. And then the unfortunate thing is, as I said, people are so devoted and in some cases so innocent and in some cases so gullible that actually they will pay more respect to me if I sit on that throne and take some photos and circulate some videos. So people who know me, they will laugh at me. But most of the people who don't know me, they might think he's such a great Lama. You see, look, he's sitting on such throne. They pay more respect, you see. but that respect itself is actually the root cause of your downfall. So don't get tempted when such offerings or such situations are there. You might get tempted. Okay, it's very, very easy to get temptation of money, of things, and so forth. So therefore, make sure that you give up a wrong livelihood. Okay. Instead of wrong livelihood, nourish yourself by the livelihood of Dharma. The livelihood of Dharma here basically means, for example, Dharma practice in general, and especially development of faith and what we call as the seven wealth of superior being. We call it seven wealth of superior being. So if you develop such inner qualities, these are long-lasting, reliable, genuine wealth, which no thieves can steal, no robbers can rob, which can help you in this life, which can help you in many lives to come, which can help other people also, right? And as His Holiness and many teachers have been saying that when Tibetans came into India, or when Tibetans came into exile, the only thing that the Tibetans knew at that time was the earth below and the sky above, nobody else. Hardly any of the Tibetans spoke Hindi or English at that time. And then, of course, they're driven from their own country, so they have nothing, probably a broken cow or something like that. Otherwise, they have nothing. But among the Tibetans, there are many highly qualified teachers who later on was able to establish all these huge monasteries in South India and elsewhere that we see today. They were able to reestablish these monasteries, not only the external construction, but the monks. Now after 30, 40 years, so many qualified monks are coming out because of the coming out of these highly learned and realized masters. So therefore, what I'm saying is, when we were driven away, we could not carry those external wealth like gold, silver, or whatever. But the internal qualities we were able to bring with us, like His Holiness Dalai Lama and so forth. And because of which, so much peace, so much happiness, so much success happened in the Tibetan refugee community. So this is an example. This is an example. So what we inner qualities, not just the external material accumulations. So therefore he's saying, nourished by the livelihood of Dharma. Okay. So therefore, in case we are ordinary, still we are ordinary human beings. So they
Geshe Lhakdor, so sorry, we cannot hear you. I think Sir, can you please send him the unmute request?
I don't know, it is automatically unmuting itself. So there must be an evil force disturbing us. So anyway, so what I was saying was, I hope you heard the story about Tibetan refugee and things like that. So when the Tibetan refugees came into exile, it is like people like His Holiness the Dalai Lama and many other great teachers who brought this inner wealth with them, which really became the source of nourishment and success of the refugee community, although we could not bring any of the material possessions. So this is a clear indication that the inner qualities are much more reliable, long-lasting than the external accumulation of the external material possessions. So therefore, Atisha was telling Domtamba that in the case of you, Domtamba, and also your immediate disciples, forget about committing any heinous crimes. You will also not commit, violate the 10 virtuous practices, or engage in the 10 non-virtuous practices. And Domdamba in fact says, yes, I'm not requesting you to tell us what to abandon, not because I have this difficulty, but for future followers, I'm requesting this. So therefore, Atisha give this teaching of teaching to avoid this, to destroy anger, pride, and so forth. And so therefore, don't get angry, and also don't get arrogant, because if you get arrogant, you will not achieve success in your spiritual practice. And as soon as mental agitation or anger arises, you should immediately cultivate the counter force, the antidote, and destroy that anger. And you should observe, see yourself as at a lower position, and practice humility, and make sure that you never engage in wrong livelihood, and make sure that day and night you enjoy the nourishment or livelihood of the Dharma practice. Because if you get angry, then as Shantideva says in his chapter on patience, chapter number 6, he says that even if you develop anger for a moment, then it will destroy your positive accumulations, which you might have accumulated for a long time. It can be easily destroyed. Okay, so therefore, don't get angry. And likewise, if you develop arrogance, then this will destroy the sprout of hatefulness, because you get so arrogant, then you will not be careful. You will not be hateful. Okay, one of the causes and factors by which to ensure our Dharma practice, a successful practice, is to have, as we discussed earlier, mindfulness, introspection, and carefulness, so that carefulness or heedfulness will be destroyed through arrogance. And if you engage in wrong livelihood, then your virtuous training will be destroyed, will be degenerate. So therefore, don't engage in wrong livelihood. In the case of a spiritual practitioner, if you engage in wrong livelihood, then it is said that your mind will also not become clear, right? You get contaminated, you get polluted, but by wrong livelihood, including wrong food, wrong clothing. If you use these things, then you'll get polluted, you'll get contaminated. So therefore, practitioner's mind must be very clear and very pure, and that purity will vanish if you engage in wrong livelihood. So then he says, so related to these practices, you should avoid the 10 non-virtuous practices and adopt the 10 virtuous practices. There's no need for me to elaborate on this, but when we talk about 10 non-virtuous practices, there are 3 related to the body, 4 related to the speech, and 3 related to the mind. And so basically, when we say non-virtue, it is saying not good. Non-virtue means if you do that, it is not good for you. For example, in the case of the 3 physical non-virtues, killing, of course, not good. And then stealing, of course, not good. And sexual misconduct or adultery, of course, not good. I don't need to go into detail. This is a common sense thing. Okay, so it's not only in Buddhism, but in many other religions. For example, in Christianity, you have these 7 deadly sins, right? So they are quite, the number is different depending upon different culture and situation, but it is basically there. And I think the other day I also mentioned this. It's not only in Buddhist practice, but it's the law, in the law of the country also. They'll tell you not to kill, not to steal, right? If you do this, then you will be caught, you will be imprisoned. So therefore, these are basically common sense things. If you go back to the human history, when there was not so much philosophy or religion, forget about science, when these things were not there, but still people were trying to use some of their common sense and find a way what is good for them, what is not good for them, right? So that people have been, if you read the story, it has been there. Then gradually the practice of religion came into being, and philosophy came into being. And with the coming of philosophy, and especially psychology, people started focusing more on the need to develop these inner qualities. And with the coming of religion, depends which religion, but in the case of, now I'm talking about the Western religion, in the case of religion, they started focusing more on the external kind of intervention. For example, they started believing in a God which is external, and paying too much attention to external, gods or deities, whatever has happened to solve the vices and to cultivate the virtues, right? And then with the coming of the science, after the enlightened period of enlightenment, what they call it, the period of enlightenment, after that, when the science came, then it really encouraged us to live a life which is evidence-based. So that is also very important. This is what His Holiness is also encouraging, that whatever kind of ethics we are trying to promote, we must do it based on common sense, common experience, scientific findings, meaning evidence-based, right? Especially in Mahayana Buddhism, when we develop devotion and faith, it should be the faith of the intelligent person, meaning that you analyze the things by yourself and then adopt those that is good for you and others, and discard those that is not good for you and not good for others. Use your intelligence. We all have this wonderful human intelligence. It must be used. This is very important. Otherwise, in the name of religion, fundamentalism, fanaticism is rampant in many countries, in the mind of many people. Still it is there. They just blindly follow and blindly ready to kill somebody in the name of that so and so called God or deity and things like that. They know nothing. I can watch for that. They know nothing, many of this. Just fanaticism, which is shocking, which is very shocking. If you don't have any trust to the person who is sitting right in front of you, which you are able to see, if you have no concern, no love, no compassion to this person, which is said to be creation of the God, and then in the name of that so-called God, which you don't see, kill that person which is sitting in front of you, for me, it doesn't make any sense at all. It is sheer ignorance and stupidity, right? And then similarly, in the so-called spirit of so-called nationalism, again, people are killing, right? So these are, we need to come up with an education so that this kind of short-sighted, narrow-mindedness is gradually reduced. That's very, very important. So therefore, stealing and sexual misconduct, and then verbally lying, telling lie, and then divisive talk, dividing people, and then harsh speech, and then idle gossip. I'm not going to explain this. Many of you know this already. If you don't know, pay more attention, use your common sense, and find out how bad. Write down, actually, make a long list how bad lying is, how bad divisive talk is, how bad harsh speech is, how bad gossip, chatterbox. If you want to become chatterbox, then you can gossip. So you find this out, and then mentally, covetousness, wishing to get other people's property, developing jealousy towards other people's possession, covetousness, and then harmful intention, and then wrong view. Now, especially with these mental things, especially the last two, harmful intention is very bad in general, and especially if you are a practitioner of the Buddha's teaching, especially the Mahayana practice, then the Mahayana teaching is based on the development of compassion. And harmful intention is totally opposite to compassion. It is trying to take the life of other people, right? So the very fundamental teaching of Buddha is violated through such kind of way of life. And then wrong view. In Buddhism, the need to get ignorance is really almost like a focal point, right? All negative emotions arise from ignorance. So similarly, this wrong view that is being explained here in these 10 non-virtuous qualities is a kind of ignorance where you don't believe in the cause-effect relationship, where you don't believe the presence of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, where you don't believe in the efficacy of the Four Noble Truth, the efficacy of the true truth, and so forth. So you believe in only what you can see and what you can hear and nothing beyond. And that is actually not only bad, but it's, I would say, this is a tragedy. The tragedy, especially of the modern world. It's a really big tragedy. It's all focused on what is out there, the tangible, the concrete, thing. Where you don't and then inside you're completely hollow. As I said earlier also, that much of the problem that we are facing in today's world is because of mental starvation, spiritual starvation. The mind is hollow. And that's why you get depressed. That's why you get, all kind of low self-esteem or loneliness and anger, jealousy, all these countless negative emotions arise because of wrong view. But those wrong views can be rectified if you make an effort. Just this morning, I received a letter from a young Tibetan, I think from Switzerland, looks like he's from Switzerland. I am yet to respond to his letter. But he shares his experience. He said he was under like so many problems, including depression, for 7 years. For 7 years. Many mind-related problems, including very heavy depression and things like that. Then somebody suggested that he should practice some kind of mindfulness, meditation, things like that. So he started doing that. And then he started listening to His Holiness teaching. And he was kind of completely transformed person. And based on his own experience of those problems and difficulties, and then the process of transformation, he has written a book, which I'm yet to see, but he has just sent the cover of that book. And he wanted to share this to many other people. How you can help yourself through mindfulness, meditation, compassion, loving kindness, and so forth. In whatever situation, difficult situation you are, if you start taking this internal kind of medications, if you start changing your mental attitude, you can really change. This is one very concrete example that I heard from him. Not only him, but I personally had kind of a discussion with a number of people who came to attend my teaching and how they got transformed through different teachings, different practices, and so forth. So it is possible. Not only possible, it's really important. There is no other method. Okay, just taking some drugs or some internal, external kind of medications. You do need to take some of the proper medications, but probably they are not the better or long-lasting solutions. So therefore, it is really important to develop correct perspective. If you don't know something, then say, I don't know. Just finish. Because you don't know something, then because of that, if you say, oh, there's no Buddha, there's no Dharma, there's no future life, because I don't know, that's stupid. That's stupid. Scientists also don't say that. If you ask a scientist whether there's future life, then they will say, no, this is not my subject. I don't know. I'm sorry. That's fair. That's fair. Okay. So don't be bold. Don't be bold. Because if you say that only the things that exist are only those that you can see or hear, then what about your mind? Then you have to say, I don't have a mind. as simple as that. Right? There are so many things. I always give this example. There are many things. In Buddhism, we talk about the three realms, the form realm, formless realm, a realm where there is no physical, ordinary physical, gross physical form. So how would you believe it? To help people to understand that, I tell them that any sentient being living is not necessarily be, a gross like you, like a human being with a big head and big brain, not necessary. So I give them the example down to mosquito. But that is not even that is not the smallest example. The smallest example is if you use a microscope and see in the water, see the water in the glass, your naked eye may not be able to see anything there, but with the use of that microscope, you may be able to see some very tiny insects moving there. So if such subtle insects. Now, for example, with the COVID-19 also, nobody is able to see that, you see, ordinarily, right? It doesn't mean it is not there. It is there, not only there, but very effective in destroying your lung and so forth. So when we are able to know that such subtle beings can function, which is unthinkable, because I don't think that they have a proper nervous system or things like that, but they are very much functioning, very alive, they're very agile, they're moving, things like that. So since these tiny sentient beings are there, there can be sentient beings who are much more smaller, much more subtle, almost in the level of having no physical form, who may be existing in the form of energy. So you need to think like that. Don't just jump to conclusion without having a proper knowledge. Okay. So you need to refrain from engaging in these 10 non-virtuous actions, because these 10 non-virtuous actions are what we call as the wrong path, the wrong road. Ordinarily, also we say, okay, go in the right direction, not go in the wrong direction. So if you cultivate any of these 10 non-virtuous actions, you are going in the wrong way, you are going in the wrong path, and you will definitely land you into problem if you do that. Because if you develop excessive attachment to this 10 non-virtuous activities, then this will, drag you into a great death. Okay. So therefore, contrary to this, you should develop right mental perspective. Instead of wrong view, cultivate the right view, and develop faith to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Understand them, who they are. Okay. And then the faith should also not be something that is seen as having independent inherent existence, but that faith and your practice, all this should be seen as having no independent inherent existence. Because if you see these positive practices as having removed the negative practices, if you see that the positive practices must be cultivated, and not only cultivated, but if you develop grasping, for example, it's very likely that we might develop grasping to His Holiness Dalai Lama, because you have so much respect to him. There is a risk, there is a danger, right? So even with the Buddha, you cannot develop grasping, you cannot develop clinging. So therefore, the great teachers, they say that when you do the Dharma practice, see all the Dharma as an illusion, as a dream, and then think about them as an illusion, and then meditate on them as an illusion, and then you will get enlightened as an illusion. Don't get discouraged. As a dream, as an illusion, doesn't mean it is not there. For example, in the dream also, when you get a dream of meeting the Buddha, you get very happy, right? As if you are awake. So we experience, all this experience that we are having is really like another form of illusion, another form of dream. That does not mean that good things will not give good result, or bad things will not, give bad result. Cause effect functioning is very effective in that nominal conventional existence, even though they do not have independent inherent existence, right? So therefore we should be careful. Therefore we should be careful. Okay. So this completes chapter number 7, which is entering into the virtuous practices by abandoning the object of abandonment. Okay. So we have a few more minutes. And the next chapter is about which I briefly mentioned, about the cultivation of the 7 wealth of superior beings, 7 wealth of Arya, and also Karsil. Karsil is a kind of religious implement that the monks carry with them, which is a lot of religious symbolism. So the next topic is on that. And the text starts by saying, give up all material objects and adorn by the wealth of the excelled. So I think this we should read next time. Okay. So if you have some questions, ask some questions today.
So, Gishla, this is Chanam. Please ask your questions. Gishla, there are questions in the chat box. Should I read it out?
Please, please.
So there's someone called Amita, and Amita's asked if meditation can help in removing anger. The first question.
Meditation now it depends upon what you mean by meditation. Meditation is not just sitting there closing your eye, which may not help you remove your anger. But here meditation in general means, it's very important to understand, meditation does not mean sitting in a corner and closing your eye and thinking nothing. Meditation basically means making your mind habituated with the positive ways of life, positive practice. That is meditation. Meditation means getting habituated. And getting habituated with what? With negative emotions, we don't have to get habituated because we are already very, very habituated. We are expert in the case of negative emotions. So therefore, habituated means habituated with the positive ways of life, habituated with the positive, qualities, virtuous practices. So therefore, if you want to get rid of the anger, then you need to use your analytical meditation, analytical thinking. First, see the destructiveness, the bad effect of anger, and then you think about how to reduce it. And in fact, once you properly understand the many demerits or faults or destructiveness of anger, you will already distance yourself much from anger, right? Right? And then, in order to remove that anger, you need to again see the great many benefits of practice of patience, which is the counterforce against anger, practicing patience, as I've already mentioned earlier, which is very much. And I encourage you to read Shantideva's chapter 6, which is so beautiful. And even not only the root text, but even English commentaries are translated. His Holiness's translation, His Holiness teaching translation is there. Then there is another 2-3 books which carries the not only the root text but also commentaries. So please do read it. And so therefore, in that chapter, Shantideva basically says that if it is something you can change, don't worry because you can change it. Okay, as I said, you get worried, you develop anger because you are confronting something. So whatever you are confronting, whatever challenging situations you are, if it is something that you can change, then he says no need to get angry, no need to develop worry because you can change it. Just make effort and change it. And if it is something you cannot change it, no use worrying because by worrying, you can't change it. This is very important because ordinarily sometimes we get angry and upset and worry on those things which we can't do anything. Like I always give the example. For example, if the weather becomes very turbulent and very nasty, then if you get angry towards the turbulent weather, the weather will never say, "I'm sorry, madam, I'm making you upset, so I will change I will change and change myself so that it becomes tolerable to you." It will never say. So there are situations, events which you can control, which you cannot control. So whenever you encounter those situations, you should see whether the situation is such that whether it can control or you cannot control. If you control it, okay, no problem. You don't have to get angry. If you can't control it, there's no use getting upset with that. Instead of focusing or using your energy on that situation which you can't change, do something else, right? Don't get bogged down with those things, right? So it's important to think in this way. And as I already mentioned, that anger destroys the best part of your brain, your intelligence, the greatest mark of a human being, that is destroyed, and you become mad, okay? So not only read text, but use your common sense, how good it is, the anger, how good it is, or if it is not good, then how bad it is, and then distance yourself from that, okay?
So Gishla, the next question is from Dimple. Dimple's asked if unhappiness is a symptom of narcissism.
Yeah, narcissism basically, as in Buddhism, we don't use the word narcissism, but we use this self-grasping, self-cherishing attitude, where you primarily think about yourself and completely forget the well-being of others. There's a kind of narcissism, I would say. So when you develop that self-grasping or narcissism, you become narrow, your mind becomes narrow. And when your focus becomes narrow, and within that narrow focus, even if there is a minor problem, you tend to see it as if it is unsurmountable. And therefore, then you become unhappy, right? You think only about yourself. Instead, if you open up, yes, it is true, you also have a problem. But if you think that, yes, I have a problem, but it is not me, there are many others who are having problem. Not only many others having problem, but there are many. I mean, when I say many, millions are living in a much, much more unfortunate situation than yourself. And they seem to be, pulling through their life. And many of them seem to be happy and enjoying, you see. So how come that I have such better fortune, better facilities than many of these million people? How come that I'm unhappy? Right? So change your mental perspective. Don't just bog down thinking about yourself alone all the time, right? So that is the nuska. Nuska, yeah.
I'm going to interrupt, and I have a question.
Yes, please.
There are so many people during this time of COVID.
Yeah.
So many people are dying.
Yeah.
And we know so many people who are in deep grief.
Yes.
And there have been cases where people have passed away in a hospital and they have COVID, and the family is not even able to see the bodies of the people they're cremating. And they are locked in. They don't really have human interaction with people because they're so isolated. So, I mean, how can we help them? What can you say to them at this time of grief?
So these are like not easy solutions. And in Buddhism, we never say that there is a quick fix solution. And especially when we are talking about in general, the suffering of people, the people's mental attitudes are so different. They're habituated in so many ways of thinking. They're completely stuck in the quagmire of the worldly ways of life. They don't know anything better than that. So you cannot suddenly give them advice and make them change and feel better. You can help a little bit, but we need to understand that real situation, that there are different people in different situations, different backgrounds and things like that. So there is, as I said earlier, I think there is a long-term solution and short-term solution. The long-term solution, for example, in the case of a Buddhist practitioner, one of the meditation they do is much before, when you encounter a pandemic or any other sufferings, much before, you have been thinking about the very decrement of human life, the sufferings of old age, sickness and death and so forth, a long time before. They know that my relatives will die, my friends will die in this name or that name, they're all going to go away. You're already familiar with all this. And because of this, you develop that love, and special love and compassion, because you have this understanding that sooner or later they're going to go. Now is the time to show love. Now is the time to help them. So you're always helping them. You're always loving them, right? So that is there. So that is really the long-term strategy. And if we have such a kind of atmosphere and expression of love and affection in the whole society, I think the problem that we are facing during such a pandemic is much less. But unfortunately, in the ordinary society, especially in today's world, those kind of encompassing love and compassion is not easily available. It has become a rare commodity in our day-to-day life. That is the problem. That's why he's always talking so much about the need to teach the secular ethics. That is the reason. So therefore, the long-term solution is not easily available. So now we have to talk about the short-term solution. The short-term solution is, again, as much as possible, at least those of us who believe in those things, as much as possible, we should talk to these people who are in grief. We should, if needed, share some money or share some food or share some clothes. Many people are there, and good organizations, they are doing that also, but because in a big population, it's really like a little rainfall in a big sand ground, sandy ground. So it's not so obvious, not so visible, but it's not the case that they're not doing. So what I'm saying is, in our own vicinity, or people who are kind of requesting us or dependent on us, as much as possible, we can do something, at least by saying a nice word, or sharing one-time food, or giving some clothes, or giving a little bit of money. I think many of us can do that. So we need to do that, not just talking, okay? Not just talking in that desperate situation. And then also console them by saying, it is not you, it is not just the COVID, even otherwise people will die in this way, that way. So, and then you're unnecessarily feeling sad and grieving will not help that person. And it will also, instead of helping you, harm your health and so forth. So those kind of relevant advices can be given, not necessarily as Buddhist teachings, but as common sense advices. Does that make sense?
Yes, of course. There is also such an overwhelming sense of fear. And while you're right, that the spiritual journey takes a long time, and we've gotten so used to looking at instant solutions.
Exactly, that's the problem.
But I think that when we're confronted with a situation that has arisen so quickly, I think people are looking at the Dharma but don't have time to catch up with the problem.
Yeah, problem again. If you think carefully, it's not the COVID-19. Such problems have been there. Whether it's the aging or death or many kind of other sicknesses are there all the time. But we don't pay much attention what needs to be done, and then many of the fears are unnecessary fear in the sense, number one, people don't want to die. So when there is a likelihood of their death, they get totally scared. Again, I'm as I said, it's not easier said than done. And then also we are so much pulled, as I said, into the quagmire of the worldly way of life. It's very difficult to pull out from there. And even the Buddhas and the great teachers like Nagarjuna, they said the worldly beings are so powerful. It's very difficult to change it. But that does not mean to say that it is hopeless. We can all, through repeated effort, we can make a difference. So that is our task. And that's why His Holiness is saying repeatedly, study Dharma, or in other words, get proper education. That's the only long-term solution. Then short-term solution, of course, you need to take medicine, take food, and extend your helping hand. All this also must be done, not just talking. Yeah.
Okay, Geshe, there's another question that I'll read out, and after that it will be Jackie.
Yeah.
And I really encourage you to ask your own questions, unless you're particularly uncomfortable with it. So yeah, Gishla, Dinara is asking that when we do prayers for other beings, do we only benefit ourselves or do we actually benefit other beings?
It depends upon your spiritual level. And these prayers also are prayers composed by, great beings. So there is much meaning there. There's much blessing there. So that has its own power and efficacy. But that efficacy, how effective that will be, again, dependent upon the level of the spiritual level of that person who does the prayer, and also his genuine motivation. So if there is a genuine motivation, wish to help others, great respect to the one who composed the prayer, good understanding of the meaning of that prayer, and with wholehearted, motivation and effort, if you make that prayer, I think it will also affect others, because it produces what we call as the positive vibration. Positive vibration. These mantras, they produce vibration. It has, I'm not just saying that, it has been checked by some scientists by using very sensitive equipments, and then they're able to find out the really benefit and efficacy of this chanting. For example, if you listen to some of the chanting, it has a very strong power to grant that peace and happiness in yourself. So these mantras are really almost like a magic formula, you see. So if you know how to put certain formulas together, just like mathematical formulas, then it has the capacity to solve many problems. But primarily, yes, it is the one who does the prayer who will be the prime beneficiary. But it does not mean to say it will have no effect to others at all.
Okay, next we have Jackie. Jackie, I've sent you unmute request.
Hello. Yeah, I was wondering if at some point, if someone in their life had low self-esteem, it's sometimes easier to counteract that with pride and arrogance instead of confidence because they're just not confident. If they're then stuck in that rut where they're now a bit more confident but just so used to applying pride and arrogance, do you have any suggestions on how to stop that?
Very good question. There is a difference between arrogance and confidence. Confidence must be there, because if you want to achieve something, if you want to do good Dharma practice, then you must have this confidence. Yes, I can do. I'm a human being. I'm intelligent. I have the facilities. I can do. Why not? So that kind of positive confidence is important. But arrogance is not just confidence, but it is getting, as I said, getting puffed up, inflated. With confidence, you don't have to get puffed up. You don't have to get inflated. With humility, you can have that confidence, right? So there in the past also there are great spiritual practitioners who externally looks really very humble. They're like torn out clothes and they speak very softly and they have their bodies bent, very, very humble. Looks like this person is not going to achieve anything. But if you just sit with them and talk to them, you can feel the vibration, you can feel the energy, you can feel the confidence in themselves, you see. So that is confidence. Confidence must be there. Okay.
Okay, Kishla, looks like this is it.
Okay.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Kishla, and thank you everyone who's here. And also I wanted to say that tomorrow is a very special day. It's Lapap Tuje.
Okay.
Lapap Tuje, how would you call it, Kishla? So it's the day when...
The descent of Buddha on the earth. Yeah.
So
Coming of the Buddha on the earth. Yeah.
happy Buddha's return to earth day. And I hope we all enjoy a virtuous weekend and hopefully all the weeks ahead. And
Okay.
with that, thank you, Geshe-la. Thank you, everyone. See you next week.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.